Hi, Michael. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good. I understand we're going to do some training in Excel today and particularly looking at pivot tables. Have you had much experience with Excel?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what about pivot tables?
No, not pivot tables.
And do you know anything about pivot tables at all?
A little bit.
Okay. In what way?
They're used to manipulate or analyze data.
Right. Okay. So that's good. So you've got a bit of understanding there. So today's session, I've got a bit of a presentation for you. And there's a video, but we are doing it via Zoom, which does make it a little bit more challenging. So if it's okay with you, what I thought I would do is I would start sharing my screen.
Yep.
So let's hope this all goes. Okay. Great. Can you see the presentation there and an Excel spreadsheet?
Yep, I can.
Okay,
Yep.
that's great. Do you have any questions at this stage?
No, not yet.
Hopefully you'll have some. Okay, so the first thing we want to touch on is a bit about online Zoom meetings. It's a little bit different than health and safety in the office, but I just want to make sure that your workstation is set up safely, that you're comfortable. And if you need a break at any time, just let me know, and that's not a problem.
No problems.
So I just wanted to go through what the plan is here. So I've been organized through your organization to give you some pivot table training. And this is the first of 4 sessions. So today we're going to look at an introduction, and then we're going to go through data management, creating charts, and then some advanced functions over the next few weeks. Is that what your understanding of the training is?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
So the agenda for today's session is that we'll do an overview of pivot tables. We'll go through an introduction. We'll create a pivot table. We'll do some data pivoting by adding columns and changing the data, and then updating a pivot table. And I think you're going to find this really quite useful in the role that you're in, because I understand you're in a construction management role.
Yep, correct.
So you would be having quite a few documents using data, I would assume.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, we're going to start by watching a short video. It goes for about 4 minutes, but it'll give us a really nice overview of what we're going to go through today. So I'll just hit play. If you can hear it, if you could give me the thumbs up when I start, that would be fantastic.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
One of the best things about Excel is the fact that a single worksheet can hold so much information. In fact, you could fill billions of cells if you needed that much room. A file with that much data could get pretty overwhelming, but there's a feature called pivot tables that can help. Pivot tables let you summarize and manipulate your data without actually changing anything in the worksheet. Let's take a look at how they work. In this example, I have some company sales data with columns for the salesperson, region, account, order amount, and month. And I need to find the answer to a very specific question. What is the amount sold by each salesperson? Because each salesperson has data on more than one row, I'd normally have to add these up in order to find the answer. But a pivot table can do this for us automatically, which will make the task much, much easier. First, you need to select your data. You can just click any cell if it's formatted as a table. Otherwise, you need to select all the cells yourself, and don't forget your column headers. When you're ready, go to the Insert tab, then click the Pivot Table command. You'll usually want to place your pivot table on a new worksheet, so make sure this option is selected. Then click OK, and a new sheet will appear. Over on the left is our blank pivot table. It's okay that there's nothing there yet. To the right is a list of fields that have actually been pulled from our column headers. This is where we control what is or isn't displayed in the pivot table. But before we continue, let's take another look at that question. What is the amount sold by each salesperson? This question tells us exactly which fields to use to find out the answer: salesperson and order amount. All you have to do is check the box next to the field, and it'll be added to one of the areas below, in this case, the rows category. Another method is to drag and drop the field into place. We'll put this one under Values. If we go back to the pivot table, now we can see the information we were looking for. In other words, the amount sold by each salesperson. So our question has been answered just by choosing what fields to include. One of the best things about pivot tables is how easy they are to modify, so you can view and analyze different things. Let's say, for example, that you wanted to know each person's monthly sales, not just their total sales. Just drag the month field down here to columns, and this will add a column for each month in the worksheet. If we wanted to know what each region sold, we could take out the month and salesperson fields and then drag region down to rows. So each time we change the fields, the pivot table is just combining the source data in a different way, so we can view the information we need. And we're doing all this without adding or changing anything in the original worksheet. You can even experiment by dragging the fields into different areas, but some combinations work better than others. For instance, if I move order amount over to columns or rows, you can see that it doesn't really give us any useful data. Since order amount contains numerical values, it really does work best in the values area. Finally, if we click the arrow next to order amount and go to value field settings, we can change the function to something other than sum. Instead, we could count the number of cells, calculate the average, or use any of the other options here. Some of these functions will be more useful than others depending on your data, so that's just something to keep in mind. In our next video, doing more with pivot tables, we're going to talk about report filters. We'll also take a look at slicers and pivot charts, which can give you even more ways to work with your pivot table.
Oops, hang on, let's stop that. Great, how did you find that?
It was good.
Did you find it interesting?
Yeah, yep, it was, and quite informative.
Okay, great. Well, let's go on the next step here. Oops. It's having a little problem. There we go. Sometimes you have a little problem when it's Zoom like this. So when we look at pivot tables, you know, they're really great for taking lots of data and making it more manageable. So you can summarize it or manipulate it into different things. And then you can also calculate things really quite easily. So it's really interesting if you look at this little picture that we have here. We have a table of data, and then when it's been put into the pivot table, it's been able to summarize it all by color, you know, which is really so much easier and also more accurate than trying to do it individually. So I guess what I wanted to do was I wanted to go back over some of the things that we saw in the video. And the first one is to look at creating a pivot table. So the first thing that you need to do is you select the table or the cells, remembering to include the row headers. That's very important. And then on the Insert tab, you click the pivot table command. And then the little dialog box will appear. And then you can say that we'll use table 1 and in a new worksheet. So I'm going to actually demonstrate that to you right now. Can you see the spreadsheet there?
Yep, I can.
Okay, great. So as you can see, I'm clicking on just one of the cells. I'm going up to Insert, Tables, Pivot Table. So insert tables, pivot table, and I click once on that. And the table range I'm putting in is table 1 on a new worksheet. And I'm going to click OK. And there we go. We've now created our pivot table, and the field list, which is this part over here, has appeared as well. So Michael, I'd like you to give that a try with the spreadsheet that I sent through to you. So just give that a go, and then let me know. It's a bit hard because we can't see each other's screen at the moment, but let's see how you go with that.
Where do I find the spreadsheet that you sent me?
The spreadsheet that I sent you, the one that I emailed you earlier today that had the data on it.
I can't see on my screen how to open it up with.
Oh, because of your Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, just click your escape button and it should give you that you can see the rest of your screen. Is that working now?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep. So I've got that spreadsheet that you sent me up.
Great. And then so the first step is that you're going to select the table or the cells.
Yep.
And do you remember what the next step was?
Yeah. Insert.
That's right.
And then tables.
Mm-hmm.
Pivot table.
That's correct.
And that's that. Yeah.
And does your Excel screen look like the one that I've got up here now?
Yes.
Great. Well done. You've created a pivot table. That's fantastic. Okay. So we've created our pivot table. And now we're going to look and we want to see what sort of data we could put in that. So we're going to decide which fields, and the fields we're going to look at is the total amount sold by each salesperson. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click salesperson. Just got to make mine's a bit skinny here. No, I'm the one having troubles. I've lost my, okay. Let's make that a bit bigger. Okay, so we're going to go salesperson. So I click on the salesperson, but it actually went over here into the numbers area. So I'm just going to drag it across into the rows. And so can you see there now, I've got all of the salespeople listed.
Yep.
And then the other thing we wanted to look at was the sales amount. So I'm going to click the order amount. And you can see now that that's the information that's appeared. So I've got each salesperson and the sum of their order amount.
Yep. I see that.
So that's great. So that wasn't too hard to do. So I think we should let you give that a go and see how you go with that now.
I think I must have closed down my pivot table, so I'm opening it again.
Okay.
I've got a message that says data source reference is not valid.
Right. So that means that you probably need to create a new pivot table. So we need to go back to those first steps. Do you want me to go back?
I think I can do that. I've
More than happy to help you with that.
on the right-hand side of my screen, I have the filters, columns, rows, values, boxes.
Yeah.
But on the left side of my screen, I've already got the pivot table created with the row labels being east, north, south, west, and then
Okay. So there's something that you can do where you can drag the information out. So just grab the things that are in the fields at the moment and just drag them across and out of the boxes, and then you'll end up with no information there again.
Yep. Now I'm
Okay. So now we want you to go and tick the salesperson.
Yep, done that.
And is that in rows or is that in values?
In value. So I put in rows.
Drag it to rows.
Yep. Now all the salespeople have appeared.
That's fantastic. And then I want you to click the order amount.
Yep.
And where has that ended up?
That's in values.
Perfect. So what's the total, grand total of your order amount at the moment?
23,565.
Excellent. Good. So I think something that's really interesting here, Michael, is as we're working through these examples, as you can see, you can't break it. It's like a tool. It's like a puzzle. You know, you can pull the information in and out. So that's something that's really, really positive. And I think it's really helpful when you're looking for information. Did you feel comfortable doing that, or would you like to try it again?
No, the only thing I wasn't sure about is why, when I opened the pivot table initially, that this data was already sitting there. Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure why that is, but that's okay. We can just work through that. Okay, so what have we got next? So, this is really interesting. So when you have the data in a pivot table, you can actually sort it and filter it, and also put number formatting on it. So I think what could be really interesting is if you click on one of the cells
In my spreadsheet.
in the pivot table.
Yep.
Actually, why don't I'll show you first, okay?
Yep.
So you can see me, I'm clicking on one of the cells.
Yep.
I've clicked on Michael Brennan. I'm going to right click and go down to sort. And I'm going to sort the largest to smallest. And automatically that happens. Another way I could do that is I could sort on the names, A to Z. And you can do that. So it's very, very simple to add that. And then I can also add formatting to these numbers, and I'm going to make them currency. So just like you do in any other Excel, you're actually able to apply that to your pivot table. Now you'll notice when I've clicked off of the pivot table information, I've lost my fields over the side.
Yep.
But if I click back on, they appear. Okay, so would you like to try and sort your numbers from largest to smallest?
Yep. So click on one of the cells.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
Then right click. Sort smallest to largest, and there.
Did it work?
Yep, it worked.
Excellent. Great. Can you see how that could be really quite useful?
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
And how about adding some formatting to those numbers? Do you think you could format them in currency?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you like me to show you again?
Sure.
Okay, so you can either just highlight the column or highlight the data, and then go to your home ribbon and just go down to your normal currency.
Yep.
And that's done.
I only did one cell. I need to highlight the whole column.
You can do the whole column or just the data. Yeah, try that.
Yep, there. Yep. I've formatted into currency.
Great. So one thing to remember when formatting on your pivot table is that if you change any of the data, that formatting will probably disappear and you'll need to format again. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yep.
The other thing that I've got a little warning sign here about, because it's really quite important, is your pivot table is drawn from your source worksheet. So if anything is changed in that source worksheet, it doesn't get updated in the pivot table and you need to go and refresh that. And that's really important when you're working with a pivot table. So if anything changes in the source data, you need to go and refresh that data. So, and that's really quite simple to do. I'll just pull this across so we can see a bit more. You just go to the pivot table, analyze, click on it, and then refresh. So it's really, really straightforward. Okay.
Can you just tell me again where you go to
Yep.
do that? I'm in my home ribbon.
Your home ribbon.
Yep.
You should have pivot table analyze across the top. If you look at my example there. Are you clicked on your pivot table? You need to be clicked on your pivot table.
Yep.
You found it?
No.
Okay.
Format it as table? No.
No. Above that, in green, you should have the words pivot table analyze. You see those words?
No.
Okay.
What am I? Should I be in the home ribbon?
What I want you to do is I'm just going to drop down so you can see my screen clearly. So
Yep.
I'm clicked on the home.
Yep.
My cursor is in the pivot table.
Yep.
And then it should say home, insert, draw,
Yep.
page layout, formulas, data, review, view, pivot table, analyze.
Mine's cutting off after view. I've just got insert, page layout, formulas, data.
You need
review.
to make your screen bigger.
I've made my screen the whole width of the, and I still don't have it.
Okay. Well, what we might do is come back to that because unfortunately I can't see your screen at the moment, but could you just confirm for me that you are clicked on a cell within the pivot table?
I am now, and pivot table analyzers popped up.
Excellent. Good. Okay.
So I've clicked on pivot table analyze.
Yep. And can you see it says refresh? There's only two options under the pivot table analyze. There's refresh and change data source.
It just says insert slicer and insert timeline.
And then to the right of that, the next thing?
Filter connections.
That's interesting. I'm not sure why that's like that, but let's just set that aside for now because that was really just a small part of what we're doing. And we can come back to that. And maybe you can send me a screenshot. Do you know how to do that?
Yep.
And then we can talk through that. So what you're saying is that your screen didn't look like my screen.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, let's come back to that, Michael, because we've got a few other things we want to get through. Okay, so the next thing we wanted to look at was pivoting data and adding columns. So this is what's really interesting, is where you can really experiment with your data and get some further information out of it. So what you can do is you can add information into columns. So the example here is actually using the month and dragging that down into the column field. So I'm going to show you to do that again. So just to make sure you can see my Excel screen.
Yep, I can.
Okay, so I'm just going to click on month there, and I've dragged it down into column.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yep.
And there we go. So we now have by salesperson, by month, and by grand total. So that's really, really valuable to be able to change the information like that.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to give that a try?
Sure. I'm just going to make my screen narrower again.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll take month and drag it into columns.
That's right.
There.
It worked?
Yep, it has.
Yep, well done. Okay. And now you've also got the grand total there, so you can see that.
I do, yep.
Fantastic. Really, really good. And then what we can look at is we can change information. So change rows or columns. So this is actually really interesting again. All you have to do is remove the field and then replace it with something else. So that's actually, you've already done that because we had that problem at the beginning, but we can actually have a look at this. So we want to, we're going to remove, and I'll do it first. So I'm going to take the salesperson and I'm dragging it off.
Yep.
So it's gone.
Yep.
And then I'm going to take the month and I'm dragging it off. And it's gone. And then we thought we would have a look and see how much we were selling by region. So I'm going to grab the region and I'm going to drag it down. So now you can see I've got a list here by region amount. So it's giving me that extra, you know, that extra information. So before we were looking at salesperson, and now we're looking at region.
Yep.
Would you like to give that a try?
Sure. Yep. So I've just taken the rows and values out.
Great.
And now I'm just going to drag the region down into rows. And the order amounts into values.
That's correct.
There.
And what's your grand total, Michael?
23,565.
Great, well done. Good. So now you've been able to see how you can change that data around and really manipulate it to get some really interesting information out of it.
Yep, that's great.
Just trying to make my screen a little bit smaller there, but okay. So now this is actually a challenge for you. So I've actually have a little exercise for you to work through. So I'm here. So just ask me any questions. But so the first thing I want you to do is to go to your practice worksheet.
Yep.
It's not your pivot table. That's the actual worksheet.
Yep. So how do I get back to that?
It will be your other tab. It says first quarter sales.
Yep. Yep, I've got that.
Okay. So go into that and create a new pivot table. And if you need any help, just yell out.
No, I've got a new pivot table.
Excellent. So we want you to look at what was the total amount sold in each region.
Okay, so I'll put region into columns or rows,
Yes,
and I'll just put order amount into values.
yes. You got that?
Yep,
And your total?
23,565.
Excellent. Very good. Correct. You did it.
Cool.
Okay. So now you're going to remove region and replace it by salesperson.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the salesperson, the salespeople, and I just put order amount in values.
That's correct. And then you're going to add month to the columns area.
Yep, I've done that.
Okay. And then you're going to change your number format to currency.
Okay, this is where we had a bit of trouble last time. So I click on a cell in the spreadsheet in the
You
pivot
need
table
to
tab.
you need to highlight the cells or the columns.
Oh, that's right. I've done that.
Mm-hmm. And then in your home ribbon, there's probably something there that says
Pivot table analyze.
No, you're just doing the formatting to currency.
Uh-huh.
So can you see my screen?
Yep.
And the spreadsheet, what I'm pointing at?
Yep.
That's what you wanted.
Yeah, I just have to stretch out my. Yep, I've done it for one of the rows, one of the columns, sorry.
Okay, so you need to do it for all the columns.
All of them. Yep, that's done.
Great. Does it look like it does on the presentation?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
You've created your very first pivot table all by yourself. Well done.
No problem. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so if I just go down to the next, so we've got our next one's going to be a little bit more in depth, data management. I will be sending you this pack, so you've got it to follow through as a guide to help you out. And Michael, what I think I'll do is that problem that we were having earlier with the refreshing the pivot table, if you could send me a screenshot, and then I can send you some information back to step you through how to do that. So we get that cleared up before our next session.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions at this point?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for today. I enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it and learned a bit more about pivot tables. And
actually, I just have one question. Early on, you said that the pivot tables were more accurate.
Yes.
And is that because if you're just manually adding cells from the table, you might just simply make a mistake?
That's correct. Yeah, you can definitely make a mistake, miss something out, miscalculate, where that completely stops this from happening 100%.
Okay, great.
Good. Okay, well done. So I'll send you through this information. And once I've done that, if you could send me through those screenshots and I'll help you with that.
Okay, terrific. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Take care, Michael. See you soon. Bye.